One day I'm in the kitchen with Chris. He mainly wears black or grey, and so do I, plus khaki, but today he's got a thick green jumper tucked into the waistband of his trousers with the elf garnet braces over it. Why do hippies always drink herb tea, I say? It's a joke. I don't know why. Because property is theft. Get it? Property. Oh, ha ha, do you want a cup of property? Yes, please, quite strong. He scoops out our 2 dripping bags and balances them on top of the heap of old bags, and the tea bag mountain starts to collapse, at which we collapse in fits. Stay away from mushrooms, he says. Is this a joke too? No, I'm serious. But they contain selenium. I'm laughing even more now because selenium is such a funny word, and me saying it, selenium, makes it even more potent. But this is typical of Chris. He doesn't eat properly from what I can see. It might be to do with his image, but it won't be good long term. No, I mean don't pick mushrooms, he says. Yes, well, some that you think are okay can turn out to be toadstools. But Chris means magic mushrooms, which have destroyed the head of Crazy Ed, who will soon be visiting us. Now Chris tells some Crazy Ed stories from the time they were on BA. Crazy Ed used to be living in the same house as Keith, whose art project was about the moon. For this, Keith put up several notes about the moon in communal parts of the house. Then Crazy Ed puts up several of his own notes in communal parts of the house. One was a note implying Keith's girlfriend ought to be with him, Ed, not Keith, and saying Keith had the status of an annoying insect. Chris can't remember the whole thing, but the last word was lunatic. When he saw Ed's notes, Keith was annoyed and took them down. Then Ed took a line of paint for a walk. The line started outside Ed's door, went down the hall, on the way coursing over other people's doors, went down the stairs, into the kitchen, and in the kitchen he entered over the cooker with an arrow pointing down. Between the arrow and the cooker was written in capitals, overreact. Then Keith went into Crazy Ed's room and went mad. What a mess, they'd have to redecorate, etc. Then Crazy Ed pulled out a knife and threatened Keith. He said, you know I'm crazy, I need to be taken to hospital for my own safety. So Keith called the police. Then when the police turned up, Crazy Ed answered the door, and the rest of them heard him talking normally. He was saying, no officer, there's no one mad in this house. Keith here must have been high on cannabis and that's why he called you. In fact, I know where he keeps his cannabis, would you like to see? And he took the policeman to the place in the kitchen where Keith kept his stash. Then the policeman picked up the dope, sniffed it and said, this seems to be some harmless vegetable matter, and threw it out the window. Then another time when Keith had been taken to hospital and Ed had been taken to hospital and Keith and some others were visiting, Crazy Ed walked into the room in a white coat with a badge on it reading Dr. Dream. Then another time, Crazy Ed plus some others were walking on a deserted moor when they all suddenly fell down in a pile. When they got back in the car, they said it was as if they'd had an electric shock. So the next week, Crazy Ed and Keith went to the same spot to see if it would happen again, but it didn't. Then when they got back in the car, just as they were driving over the place where they'd been talking about it the week before, the back of the car lifted up in the air and jerked back down with a jolt. Then another time, Crazy Ed had been let out of hospital and was banging on the house door to be let in. But they didn't want to let him in. Crazy Ed was shouting, you've got to let me in, I'm being chased down the street by rhinoceroses. So they found the hospital where he was supposed to be being detained. The hospital said, we don't want him here, he's a nutter. After hearing all this, I met Crazy Ed. He was sitting in our kitchen. He had wire glasses and electric shock hair. He said, what do you think I should do? As it was his first time in London, I said, maybe you could visit sites such as Tower Bridge. No, he said, gesticulating around, I mean, what should I do about all this? Well, what? Life. Thank you.